responsiveness, if you look at the root of the word response, is also the same root of word responsibility. So the more responsive someone is, to me, is a signal that this is a responsible person.
Welcome to King Moves. In chess, the king moves one step at a time, but that single move can change everything. Each week, we explore mindset shifts and simple actions that could lead to the next breakthrough in your business and life. I'm your co-host, Ethan King, from Atlanta, Georgia, USA. Entrepreneur, TEDx speaker, and best-selling author of Wealth Beyond Money.
And I'm your co-host, Justin King, no relation to Ethan, from Cape Town, South Africa. Entrepreneur, speaker, and business growth strategist. Our journey crosses continents and cultures as we think out loud, challenge assumptions, and uncover the small moves that create big momentum. Welcome to King Moves. Let's start the conversation.
I have this theory, but first I want to ask you a question. How responsive are you when someone sends you an email or a text message? How would you rank yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 on your responsiveness?
It's too responsive.
Too responsive. Okay.
What I mean, I know where you're going with the question, but the reason I say too responsive, I think sometimes I let it dictate what I'm going to allocate some of my time to. In general, I will always try and respond within 24 hours, 24 to 48 hours as a rule of thumb for emails that get sent through.
Okay. That's fair. And I would say that I'm about the same because there's some science there where you don't want to respond too quickly because then it turns into a chat back and forth conversation. But you are a responsive person. And I would say that I am too. Now, let me ask you this. On the other end of that, have you ever sent emails to some people and you never hear back, or they might take a week to respond, like different levels of responsiveness, right? Yeah, so I have this theory that responsiveness, if you look at the root of the word response, is also the same root of word responsibility. So the more responsive someone is, to me, is a signal that this is a responsible person. Now, I'm not saying they need to get back to me in 5 minutes or immediately, but I've noticed in working with people that those people who I have to follow up with constantly to get a reply from are typically harder to work with in general. So to me, that's a signal. Like if I'm going to do a venture with this person or hire them or work with them in some capacity, I gauge how responsive they are to messages and emails and so forth as to how deeply I'm going to work with that person. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
I think it's a fair assessment if there is an underlying agreement around the choose my words, underlying agreement, but somewhat of a social contract around we are going to be doing work together. What I just want to be careful of, I don't think sending somebody an email, you have a right to a response.
Oh, yes, so Yeah, great point. If you spam me, I'm not going to respond to you.
Yeah.
Period. So
there would be a little bit of water that's flowed under the bridge prior to this, as in some sort of discussion, and now we're conversing essentially via email. Then we're on the same page.
Exactly. Yeah. I should have prefaced that with, Justin and I, let's say we've had a chat already over coffee. And then after that chat said, hey, we'll follow up on email to move this thing forward, whatever this project is. And then one of us drops the ball and doesn't reply for 2 weeks or whatever that is. Yeah. But you got to have that initial conversation.
Yeah. And I think the willingness to respond, the responsiveness, the responsibility that one takes for their communication, the responsibility that one takes for moving the relationship and the project forward, the engagement forward. Absolutely, I would read into that. But it is also useful just to understand who the person is, how busy they are, what they do, to also have reasonable and realistic expectations around what is reasonable for them. Because you and I might say 24 hours, 24 to 48 hours, that's our standard that we set for ourselves. Mm-hmm. That person may be very different in that regard and say, you know what, I've got all these other things on the go. These are the most important. I look at my emails once a week because it's not my primary method or mode of communication. And that's maybe extreme because I think a lot of people default to email. Instant messaging is absolutely rapidly become the easier way to communicate and connect, whether that's WhatsApp or iMessage or whatever it is. So I'm 100% on the same page as you, but it may just require a super simple, easy contract up front. And I don't mean the kind that you have to sign, but just saying, we've had a great conversation. We've had a great discussion. Coffee was excellent. let's take this conversation to email now, and we can share some ideas back and forth just so we're on the same page. How often do you tend, or how do you manage your emails? How often do you respond to your emails, just so that I can make sure that we aligned going into this?
Yeah, it's an interesting approach. I hadn't really heard that. Now I don't use email autoresponders, and I know a lot of people do use that heavily. Tim Ferriss was kind of very famous for, in the 4-Hour Work Week, he leveraged the autoresponder in his email to let people know that, hey, I only check my email from noon to 2 p.m. on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and that's the only time you get a response from me. And he's very upfront with that. So I think that that's a good thing to do. Now with me, I don't use email autoresponders, but I know that when I'm overwhelmed, I'll have an assistant go in there and reply to emails for me. I also have some AI tools that will go ahead and draft the email response for me, and then I can just review it and hit send on it. And the longer that you use them, the better they get, because they understand you. There's a few out there. One of them is called Serif. And another one that I've tried is Fixer, Ixer, I think it's spelled. But I've also customized, like you do custom ChatGPT automations to help manage your email inbox too. That gets a little bit more advanced. But if you can't manage it yourself, then I recommend either having another person like a VA or AI help you respond faster. Because I think in general, it is a good practice to get back to people quickly. Even if you don't have an answer for them yet, just say, hey, got your email, working on it, something like that. I think that's a king move for me. Like just it will elevate you. And I'm not talking about getting back to spammers or somebody, but when there's already been some type of expectation of communication, if you're working on a project together or doing something, get back to that person quickly and let them know, hey, got it, working on it. I'll get back to you in 3 days or whatever, or by the end of the week.
My king move would be, you've got to take responsibility to, and I'm going to use the word train. It might sound weird, but you've got to take the responsibility to train others how to interact with you. And what that means is you need to be consistent in the way that you interact with them. If sometimes you respond within 10 minutes, then sometimes within 2 hours, but more or less like the same day, and then all of a sudden you disappear for 4 days or a week or 2 weeks, that's where frustration creeps in. But if you are consistent about only responding once a week, then the person on the other side knows, hey, I haven't heard from them for 3 days, but that's because they only respond once a week. I'm sure I'll get one in 2 days' time. So you've got to take some responsibility for training the other person on how you interact.
Yeah, there are a lot of nuances to this here. You and I, for example, when I send you a message, we're in different time zones. So sometimes I'll send Justin a message when it might be the middle of the night for him. And I'm hoping I know you, so I'm sure that you have your notifications off and I'm not waking you up at 3 a.m. or whatever with my random thought that I had, like, hey, we should talk about this on the podcast. So when I send that, I'm not expecting a quick reply or a reply at all. Sometimes it's just like, hey, noting this here for future when we do speak. But we have an understanding and we have set expectations on how we communicate with each other. So I think that's a great king move that you shared.
That's a good topic. Thanks, Ethan. I enjoyed that.
That's a wrap for today's episode of King Moves. Remember, in chess, like in business,
one right move can change everything.
Take today's action step, make your move, and build momentum.
If you found value in today's episode, share it with someone who's ready for their next breakthrough, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss our weekly conversations. Until next time.